Hallo, willkommen zurück auf den Kanal. Ich bin Lang.
Wassalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the channel. If you are learning a foreign language, chances are that there are 3 things that you are doing wrong. This may sound weird because since here at Langdawg, we have the philosophy that there really isn't a wrong way to learn a language.
Everyone has their own way of learning a language, usually specific to their own type of needs and their own type of learning styles and schedules. However, these are 3 things that if you don't do, then it's likely that you won't be acquiring the language as effectively as you otherwise could have. And the reason why we see these 3 things as mistakes is because though people learn languages differently, these 3 things are basically how you learn your own native language and basically stuff that anyone can do and stuff that we believe that anyone should do.
So let's start with number 1, which is the lack of immersion. This is absolutely crucial since this is basically how babies learn their native language. Think about it. When you were a baby, you can't really say much because you were stupid. However, say you grow up in Spain and you constantly hear, of course, Spanish around you. That's going to be, of course, your native language because your parents are going to be constantly talking to you in Spanish. You're probably going to hear Spanish music. You're probably going to have education in Spanish, and people around you are going to be speaking Spanish. So this means that you're going to slowly absorb the language and learn it in that way. Because as a baby, you have no other way to see the world. You have to absorb it through your own native language in order to function as a human being.
And it works the same way for second language learners. However, it's even better because you already know words for things like tree, computer, towel as vocab and as concepts. So instead of having to learn those things again as concepts, because when you're a child, you not only have to learn vocabulary, but actually the concepts behind that since you're so young, you only need to know the vocabulary when learning a second language. For example, you need to understand existentialism as a word, like learn the vocabulary, but you also have to understand it as a concept. But if you are learning the word for existentialism in another language, you only need to learn it as a vocabulary word and not as a concept.
Also, what people do is that they study grammar and they study vocabulary really hard. And yes, grammar is really important, and it is good to revise the vocabulary. But especially in schools, people aren't learning by memorizing 420 words on a vocabulary list or trying to remember where the verb is placed in a sentence, since most people don't even know what a verb is. It's better to just immerse yourself in the language. So how do you do that, and what does that specifically mean? Well, firstly, judging by the average amount of time people use their phones nowadays, especially younger people, you should put your phone in your target language. You will naturally acquire words and will have to learn words in order to navigate your phone. If you don't force yourself to learn new words, you might get confused as to where things are on your phone. You might not be able to access certain things, and you won't be able to delete your Safari search history since you can't read anything and don't know what it means. But if you use context clues and also look up a word here and there, then you'll get ahead of 99% of students in the American education system. By that I mean students, and by that I mean probably you.
So you need to put your phone in your target language, put YouTube in your target language, any social media that you use in your target language, and specifically start watching shows in your target language. Now, depending on the person, you may want to watch this show with subtitles in your native language, or subtitles in your target language, or just no subtitles at all.
Personally, I think that once you're at an A2 or B1 level, you should definitely watch with subtitles in your target language, but that's just me. However, especially if you're watching content that is literally geared towards learning your language, so like for example, if you're learning German and you're watching Dawg, I think it's important that you start by watching it with German subtitles and try and figure out what it means based off of the context clues they provide you, since that content is literally made to have you understand the language.
And of course, there's other amazing ways to get immersion, which is, watching YouTube videos in your target language, listening to music in your target language, and of course, talking to people in your target language. That's the best way to absorb the language to see how it is naturally spoken, right?
We often learn languages in school in ways that are completely disconnected from how people actually speak it. If you try and memorize sentences that you learned in school, you will often sound very strange, or like you're trying to be super formal and Shakespearean when talking to a serf who probably only speaks a local dialect anyway.
You need to sound natural, and you only get that from talking to people. That's why you probably don't have good social skills if you talk badly in your native language.
Damn, Rose!
And this leads into mistake number 2, which is not talking to people, not practicing your language when it comes to speaking or reading and writing, like text messaging people in your target language, or just not practicing your target language in any way at all that interacts with native speakers or other language learners.
But more specifically, this mistake is being afraid to talk or being afraid of making mistakes. Think about it. You have to talk to native speakers in order to learn your native language, right? Even if you grew up not speaking your native language, you still were able to hear people speak in it. So you did still get in that comprehensible input that we talked about.
But assuming that you are sociable in some sense, and you know that you're able to have conversations with people, then chances are that you grew up speaking your native language with at least your family and or friends around you. And you made mistakes when you were younger. You made grammatical mistakes. You likely still do. But that's how you grow and thrive in any language.
And when you're younger, you don't really have the stress of judgment or how well you are supposed to be in a language. You don't have any type of fear towards how people are going to judge you or what people are going to think of you if you make a mistake. I mean, at least I hope not, sheesh. You need to have the same type of mentality when learning a second language. Because if you are always constantly worried about how you're going to sound, you're basically never going to speak your language, or your target language, which for most people is the ultimate goal. You need to start speaking and practicing because that's how you're going to get better. You're going to notice the mistakes that you're making yourself, and also when talking to other people, they're going to be able to point out the mistakes that you're making. I think that this is a win-win and a great way to connect with people in general.
Additionally, if you're using a language learning app such as HelloTalk, then they're going to be nice to you and not really ridicule you. But even if people are a-holes and they do make fun of you, chances are that you're going to remember that mistake forever and not make that mistake. So I think at the end of the day, it's a worthy sacrifice because you're able to actually improve at your language.
And hey, you getting made fun of should motivate you to come back in a couple of months and be able to cuss them out in a way more fluent and brutal than when their parents fought and argued until they got themselves into a divorce. So do not be afraid of making mistakes.
Be confident because that's how we all grow. You have to understand that learning a language is not a competition. It's literally all about you just wanting to be the best you can at a language. We're all in this together, so please don't worry.
But if you are only learning a language to gain a toxic internal ego boost over other people and use it to justify being better than others, and it works, then hey, good for you, I guess. I don't know.
Lastly, we have procrastination. Procrastination is really important to talk about because a lot of people fall into the trap of falling in love with the idea of learning a language instead of actually learning that language.
Now don't get us wrong. Thank you for watching our channel and continue watching our videos since we're Terror Chats. But people will often just spend hours and hours on YouTube looking at other people speaking languages, or hours and hours on YouTube trying to find tips and tricks in order to learn their language instead of actually learning the language. It's good to see other people's accomplishments and how many languages other people can speak in order to become motivated, but if that's all you're doing, then you're not going to learn your language. You just have to dive in headfirst and go for it and not waste your time.
This might have been or is still you, since this seems to be something that the majority of people who have any type of interest in language fall into. You will often hear people say they would like to learn a language, then actually do it.
If you don't start and you keep procrastinating and obsessing over learning a language instead of actually learning a language, over time it's just going to remain a dream. Now, this is not to get confused if you have no time to learn a language. If you have no time to learn a language, then that's a completely different thing. Or if you're stressed or busy, that's a completely different topic. We preach that if you need to take a break from learning a language since life gets in the way, or you are just losing motivation, you definitely should take a break because it can kill motivation. Learning a language shouldn't feel like work. It should be something fun and relaxing. And to all my viewers who are on the younger side, I think that you do have a lot of time, and so you should definitely try and learning a language. It will definitely change your life. And for all the adults out there, if you can find any spare time, I think you should definitely take it and invest it in learning a language. So in summary, please, please, please acquire the language and consume it as much as you can. That's how you're going to learn the language.
And don't be scared of learning the language. Speak up, be confident, interact with people, even if you want to be anonymous. That's how you learn the language. And use your time wisely. Don't procrastinate. If it's clear that you have time on your hands and that you're really dedicated to this, put your all into it and learn it. Because 1, you're going to learn it faster, but 2, you're going to learn it more effectively and have more fun with it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please like because it shows YouTube that you enjoy our content. Comment down below if you have made or are making any of these mistakes, and tell us with which language are you studying or want to study but haven't started yet.
And please subscribe if you want to see more free content like this. Also, make sure to head over to my channel, Dawg, where you can get more goofy content. But be careful, because people who obtain my sacred knowledge from my channel might become too smart for their own good.
Whatever you say, dog. But that's all for now. Bye. Adios. Tschüss. Salut.
Salut.